Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we are looking at some absolutely massive paradigm-shifting updates in the AI space. We're way past the point of just talking about slightly smarter chatbots. We are literally entering an era where AIs are actively managing other AIs. They're joining our actual human workforces as teammates. And maybe most importantly, global governments are now directly stepping in to manage how this tech rolls out to all of us. There's a ton of ground to cover today, and honestly, these shifts, they're going to fundamentally change how we interact with technology every single day.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. The rise of orchestrator models, AI joins the team, the end of the Wild West, who owns the training data, and we'll wrap up with some rapid-fire AI updates.
Starting off with Section 1, the rise of orchestrator models, specifically Sakana's Fugu. So Sakana just released Fugu, and it is not just another standard model like a new GPT or Claude. It's actually a completely new approach to AI workflows. Think of Fugu less like an individual worker and a lot more like a highly efficient middle manager. Instead of you sitting there trying to figure out which AI is best for, say, a specific coding or writing task, you just give your prompt straight to the orchestrator. It then acts as the manager, automatically delegating the task by routing your prompt to the absolute best-suited underlying models. And what's really fantastic about this is the built-in redundancy. Like if one provider, maybe an OpenAI or Anthropic model running under the hood, suddenly goes down, the orchestrator just seamlessly reroutes the work to an available model. You don't lose a single ounce of progress. Now, Sakana launched this whole system with two distinct variations. This standard Fugu balances really strong performance with low latency. It's fast, it's a bit cheaper, and it makes for a fantastic default for everyday tasks. But then you have Fugu Ultra. This version is specifically tuned for maximum answer quality on those really hard, multi-step problems where the AI actually needs some time to think. And wow, it is incredibly effective. If you look at recent benchmarks, this orchestrator system is actually beating heavyweights like Fable 5 and Mythos in key areas like live code bench and complex proof questions. To really see what this looks like in practice, let's look at a real-world test where both these models were asked to clone a video game. The results? Completely night and day. The Fugu orchestrator perfectly dialed in the gameplay logic. It actually created a spot-on Vampire Survivor-style clone, complete with functional meta upgrades, a whole upgrade shop, and working leveling systems. But it did have very basic 2D graphics. Now contrast that with the Fable model. Fable produced these absolutely beautiful 3D graphics using Three.js and dynamic rotating cameras, but it ultimately failed to generate any coherent gameplay logic whatsoever. This is such a perfect illustration of the current trade-offs we're seeing right now between logic-heavy orchestrators and visually heavy models. That capability, however, definitely comes at a cost. $30. Yeah, that is the surprisingly high amount it costs to run Fugu Ultra on extra high mode just to generate that single game clone and a fully functioning website clone. So while the output is incredibly logical and complex, running an orchestrator that's constantly pulling from multiple heavy-duty models, it can drain your API credits super quickly. Moving right along to Section 2, AI joins the team. Anthropic's Claude Tag. So we are transitioning from how AI manages other models to how AI is managing work right alongside us in our human workplaces. And this is being driven by a massive update from Anthropic. We can visually frame this shift by looking at what we'll call the three eras of AI interaction. Era 1, that was the web chat apps where we actually had to go to a web browser to talk to an AI. Era 2 brought standalone apps right to our desktops and phones. But right now, we are entering the defining third era, which is seamless workspace integration. Instead of leaving your workflow to consult an AI, the AI just lives natively where you already work, like right inside Slack. The renowned AI researcher Andrej Karpathy described this shift perfectly. He called it, quote, a new paradigm for interacting with Claude that is significantly more in line with all other human activity. Claude basically joins the team in a seamless way. And he hits the nail on the head there. It is a profound shift in mindset. You're no longer just using a software tool. You are literally tagging a coworker. So here's how Claude Tag actually functions for enterprise teams. You can tag Claude directly in a Slack channel exactly like you would a human colleague. And because it just hangs out in the channel, it organically learns your company's context over time. No more constantly copying and pasting background info into a fresh prompt over and over again. It can even proactively watch the channels and step in to offer help when it sees an issue it knows how to solve. Plus, it's highly secure and tightly controlled by enterprise admins. To show you just how effective this is in practice, Anthropic claims that a staggering 65% of their own internal code is currently being written using this exact feature. Crazy, right?
This isn't some futuristic, far-off concept. This is literally what your daily workspace is about to look like.
All right, Section 3, the end of the Wild West, AI regulation. With AI becoming this deeply embedded in our workflows and businesses, we're now seeing some major regulatory news that might fundamentally alter how quickly the public actually gets their hands on these incredibly powerful tools. According to a memo sent to staff this past Thursday by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, the Trump administration has requested that OpenAI stagger the release of their highly anticipated GPT 5.6 model over security concerns. So instead of a massive global launch day, the government will actually be approving access on a customer-by-customer basis during an initial preview period. Now, Altman's memo did note that OpenAI hopes for a general release a couple of weeks later if all goes well. But importantly, they stated they will be working with the government and the industry to achieve a, quote, more sustainable approach for future releases. So what does this all mean for us? Well, it strongly indicates that the Wild West era of AI, that time where we could just wake up on a random Wednesday to find a massive world-altering AI rollout available to millions of people instantly, that era might be permanently over as government oversight takes a front seat. This brings us to Section 4. Who owns the training data? This increasing regulatory scrutiny naturally leads us to a pretty critical question. As these models get smarter and smarter, what exactly are they learning from? Well, a new searchable watchdog database published by The Atlantic is shedding some real light on this, showing exactly which creators are feeding these algorithms. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it grounds this totally abstract idea of training data. For example, prominent YouTubers have had their content completely swept up. The database shows Moist Critical had 221 videos in the dataset, Epic Mealtime had 212, and Ryan George had 25. These are the actual human voices and faces being used to teach AI models how to generate new content. And hey, it is not just YouTubers. 150. That represents the exact number of Blink-182 songs explicitly found in the training dataset for AI music generators like Suno and Udio. So major musicians and huge record labels are heavily impacted here too. It's really pushing the whole conversation about copyright, fair compensation, and consent right to the absolute forefront of the entire AI industry. Okay, let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds into our rapid-fire AI updates. There were several other major announcements this week that we need to hit real quick. First up, we got a sneak peek at the upcoming Seed Dance 2.5 video model, which was teased at a conference in Beijing. And the specs here are incredibly impressive. It'll be able to generate a full 30-second single-segment native video, which literally doubles the length of previous models. But most shockingly, it supports up to 50 multimodal reference assets. That means you can feed it a massive combination of text, images, audio, and video all at once to guide the final output. It also promises significantly finer control over camera editing and motion. This is going to be a real game changer. Next up, Krea AI announced that their highly capable Krea 2 model is now open weights. Now, this is a really big deal for the open source community. It means you can now download the model directly, run it locally yourself, and fine-tune it. So just like with Stable Diffusion or Flux, you can now train your own personal likeness or even your specific proprietary art styles directly into the Krea ecosystem. Over in hardware news, OpenAI and Broadcom just announced they are partnering up to develop custom inference chips. If you aren't familiar, when you ask an AI a question and it generates an answer, that specific computation is called the inference phase. So while OpenAI is definitely still going to rely heavily on NVIDIA hardware for training their massive models, creating their own custom inference chips aims to make actually running these models much faster and much cheaper for the end user. It essentially gives OpenAI total control over the speed and cost of their outputs. Finally, Meta is pushing really hard to make AI wearable for absolutely everyone, and it's a fascinating leap from just hard-coding models to high fashion. They just launched 26 new styles for their Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses. They're expanding way beyond the classic frames, introducing brand new Adventurer and Fury styles, and they're even launching partnerships with figures like Kylie Jenner. It's a clear move to ensure smart glasses appeal to a much broader fashion-conscious demographic, rather than just the tech crowd. Which leaves us with this final thought for today. We've seen orchestrators out there building software on their own, we've got AI coworkers actively writing company code directly in Slack, and we have governments stepping in to put the brakes on rapid rollouts. So the big question we have to ask ourselves is this. As AI integrates seamlessly into our human teams and manages its own incredibly complex workflows, does staggering the release of powerful new models actually protect our collective security, or does it unnecessarily slow down the future of open innovation? It is absolutely the defining trade-off of this new era. Thanks so much for diving into this explainer with us today, and as always, keep questioning what comes next.